Keith, you're on caretaker under 20s duty tonight. Interesting concept, but you must have enjoyed those 90 minutes. It was a 1-1 draw here in Livingston, but it was a thoroughly entertaining game.
No, it really was. From our point of view, it was, I think it was a great exercise for everyone involved. The young ones, obviously, there's a few experienced ones down playing, which is great. For a young player to play alongside, like Ben Hall playing alongside Big Louis. Midfield Clarkey dropping in there, and then Theo and Wes up top. So it was a real good mixture of the team. Some young lads, some older heads dropping down, and I think all in all, every one of them, put in a good shift. And it was as you say, it was a good game to watch.
Can you feel slightly aggrieved that you haven't taken all 3 points?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you take probably the first 4 or 5 minutes away from the game, sloppy from us, set piece, from that point on, I thought we dominated most of the game. To be honest, I don't think it was a final ball. Even at least it was just that final shot and goal. Hit the woodwork a couple of times in the first half, and just couldn't get it in the net for whatever reason. But it was a lot of real good build-up play, good partnerships throughout the team, some real good play and entertaining game. And I think we can count ourselves unlucky, just to only come away with a draw.
Do you have to credit Hearts for the way they defended at times? I thought they put their body on the line in more than one occasion, and if you go down shots blocked, there must have almost been double figures amount of times they blocked shots inside the 18-yard box.
Yeah, it was. Boys were even joking about it on the line. It's the amount of shots, as you say, cut back to the edge of the box, and real good opportunities to score. And by hook or by crook, they kept the ball out the net. Could we be a bit more clinical? But I think even at times when we were, ball was possibly going in the net. They, as you say, sometimes they were just getting themselves in the end of it and blocking it. So, a little bit unlucky not to be not just level at half time. Unlucky not to be in front. But there's always still things to work on, especially with the younger ones. But I think a good night's work all in.
It's the fourth game in a row, and the league game in a row for the under-20s. They've had to come from behind to earn something from the game. Is that the major point to try and develop, that we need to perhaps concentrate more in the early stages of the game to make sure we're not in these positions to have to try and claw it back?
I think that's a good message to send to the younger ones. I think we spoke at half time, and there was so many positives to say, but ultimately we're 1-0 down, and that's football. Sometimes you can go and dominate a game from start to finish but still lose the match. And I think for the young boys to realise how important the importance of set pieces and not just corners, but wide free kicks and wide throw-ins that can, if you're not quite switched on and ready to defend, that can cost you games, no matter how much you're going to dominate them. So it's a good, as I said, there's always lessons to be learned in games. Some real positive things that happen, but there's always things you can work on, and I think the detail at our set pieces is something going forward that we'll look at, and hopefully they can recognise that from tonight, that it does cost you if you're not set.
It's almost a standard question to Stephen Craig, and is the flip side about losing goals the way we have and going behind, the character it takes for them to come back in it, particularly against a decent Hearts side with experience themselves. Yeah,
of course it is, and I think, as you mentioned there, it was an experienced Hearts side. It wasn't a team of young boys they had out, so to show that character against an experienced side was great. And I think it was, as I said, take out the first 5 minutes. I think straight from their goal, straight from their kick-off, I think we were on the front foot straight again. It wasn't a case of feeling sorry for ourselves or we've lost a goal. It was straight away from then till half time. I think, as I said, we were really the dominant force, and that, you've got to give the players credit for that, young and old. So it was nice to see, but as you say, it'd be nice for us to get in front and then kick on again, and hopefully we can do that next week.
It would be remiss of us to not talk about Louis Lang's equalising goal. Surely a contender for goal of the season.
Yeah, well, it's got to be. I'm sure he's trying to get a DVD off of Roscoe as we speak to get that into his collection. But no, it was great. He set a good example all night, Louis. His general play was great. I think, obviously the finish, but the way he even stepped in front to get possession of the ball, I think summed up his night. He was on the front foot. He was looking to attack the ball at any situation, and the way he stepped into the game, he done that numerous times throughout the game, and it was credit to him, and he deserved it. So fantastic finish, and I think only what the team deserved.
I know you're his teammate effectively in the dressing room, so it's difficult, but is that the type of Louis Lang that the club need to see? It's very reminiscent to me for those who were at Inverness the first game of the season, where he strolled the game. It looked as if he was head and shoulders above anything that was out there, and that's the type of one that we know is in there, and it's just about trying to get that out of him because he's got real quality.
Oh, of course he has. I mean, he's got everything to be a top centre half. He's got the size, the ability. I think you've seen his distribution tonight was first class. I don't think he put one bad pass, one pass wrong. So everything's there in his game. It's just it's just getting it out of him on a regular basis. But the potential is there. You've seen it, as you said, the first day of the season up at Inverness. He strolled through that game. And it's there, it's just like not just Louis, but it's all of us, including myself in that, obviously. At every level, first team level, under 20s level, it's about consistency and doing it week in, week out. There's no doubt Louis can do it. Hopefully, he can use this to kick on again, into the first team environment again.
Not one to name check individuals, but I'll mention one more, and it's young Ross McLean. The reason I mention it is because he's obviously come back from quite a lengthy injury, back again and here and again, showed real, glimpses of what he was in pre-season. It was really, had him very much involved in the first team mix.
Yeah, I think he was unlucky, Chucky, because he was getting himself onto the verges of the first team. Travelled away with us in pre-season and things like that, and you could really see he was starting to grow into that role and grow into being part of the first team squad. So it was a bit cruel, and it was unfortunate for him to get the injury at that time. But you wouldn't have known he'd been out for that length of time with tonight's performance, and I think he's got to take great credit from that, because I think every player knows how hard it can be sometimes to come back from a long-term injury. You'd think Chucky'd been back playing for half a dozen games, 10 games, because he looked at it right from the start. His appetite for the game, endeavour, not just that, the quality as well. The amount of times he beat his man and got across into the box was excellent. His positioning was excellent, and he worked really well with Jack up and down that right hand side. So great. I'm sure he'll take great heart from that. And he can only get stronger. Hopefully that'll be the case.
And a positive for Stephen Craigan at the moment, and Stephen Robinson, I suppose. It's like Samson, Louis Lang, who you've mentioned Fletcher and Robinson and Clarkson, all getting long extended periods of the game. Gets them a little bit sharper, because they've not had maybe a lot of game time at first team level for various reasons.
Look, we spoke about it in the dressing room there. It's a problem. It's a good problem. Craigs and Robbo have obviously got to pick first and foremost a squad to go to Dundee. After tonight's performance, that's probably going to be a difficult decision. There'll be so many hats thrown into the ring there. Some great performances. That's what he asked for before the game. I thought the boys went out there and delivered that, young and old. You see some of the younger ones there, I think, ready to step up as well. So as I said, it's a problem. It's probably a good problem to have. And Craigs has got that difficult decision going forward, but as I said, it's better having it that way than maybe not thinking you've got guys that you can step up. So yeah, it's competitive. That's the way you want it. Competition for places, not just in the starting 11, but in the squad as a whole, and I think that can only be healthy going forward.
Keith, thank you.
Cheers.